It's the Lockdown Flyers podcast for Monday, December 8th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content. Thinks the Flyers could have had maybe a better strategy against the Colorado Avalanche, especially early.
I agree.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi, and welcome to Locked On Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. We do have some podcast related news to talk about. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Cam York, as we talked about on Friday, is day to day here. And they made a call up to have a backup seventh defenseman around in Ty Murchison, which good for him for getting the NHL paycheck for a couple of days. Obviously, he did not play in the game, but if you're going to get a reward call up, I think Ty Murchison deserved it. We've been talking about his play improving pretty steadily over the season so far and over last year. He's not a huge scorer. He has a goal and 3 assists on the season thus far in like 22 games, I think, at this point. But I think that that's really not his role to be a scorer, and his defensive play and his positioning has gotten better. So good for him.
Yeah, it's a nice reward. It's something where even if he doesn't play, he gets to practice with those guys. He travels with them a little bit. He gets that paycheck, and that's good. And that does fuel a guy.
And I will never forget his preseason question about knowing musical theater and being a Newsies aficionado. So I will be rooting for him to get a start at some point, of course. One of the reasons why they were able to do that is because Oliver Bonk was activated, and he got his first game in on Saturday for the Phantoms. We're going to talk more about that on tomorrow's show when we do our Phantoms Tuesday prospect report there. But very happy to see Oliver Bonk finally getting into some games here.
I mean, considering it was July when we last spoke to him, yeah, it's been a haul. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So they just had him play the one game over the weekend, which is probably good. Kind of ease him in there.
Ease him in. Yeah.
But very good news indeed. Now, versus the Colorado Avalanche, I thought it was really interesting, the strategy that the Flyers had in place to try and defeat this juggernaut of a team here. And, we talked about it on Friday. It was going to be a tall order for the Flyers to win this game. Obviously, as we know, they did not, but it was pretty close. And I think it could have been closer if they had started doing some things earlier in the game. But I think ultimately, I don't know if it was an execution issue or the Avalanche are just that good issue, but it felt like defensively the Flyers were sitting back early and just ceding the neutral zone to the Avalanche.
Yeah, there's a few things. So, like on another show, I felt like with Blackwood going back to back, which goalies very rarely do that.
Very rarely.
And then playing 3 out of 4 games, you would have to really pour it on early if you wanted to have a legit chance of beating this team. And they got the first goal, and then they didn't pour it on. And I didn't get that either, because my feeling was, you got to keep doing that. You got to try and run them out of the first period and let them play catch up all game. And that didn't happen. There was one goal lead, and then they never were able to, get it any closer. So yeah, they got it within 1 again at 3-2. But you know what I mean? Like, it was like after that, it was like, you're right. They should have done better with that.
Yeah, I think that goal was especially early too, right? So
Yes.
it felt like neither team had really settled into their rhythm for this game yet. So things were kind of wide open, and the Flyers just kind of happened to capitalize on it. Now, it
Yes.
was a great goal, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Sean Couturier deserves that. But I do think that just systematically, the Flyers didn't really have the right approach early. And I do think they adjusted later in the game, but if they had been more forceful in the neutral zone earlier in the game, I think they could have done more. I also think that, it's sometimes hard to tell, to your point with the Avalanche playing 3 games in 4 days. This was the second
And
half
they
of.
just went to overtime.
Yes. Yeah, they did against the Rangers. So, it was this a case of the Flyers, losing a close game to a great team, or the Avalanche running out of gas late because all of this finally caught up to them? I would say it's a little of
It's
both.
all of it.
Yeah,
It's all of it. And so my thinking is, I think if they had time to prepare for this game, a
they
lot of it.
did.
And so they didn't really take any time and space away from the Avalanche. The
No.
Avalanche had the puck most of that game. And you figure that was going to be the strategy, is to not let that happen. So, that's the weird thing. And then it does, I will say this is like on a side, but it does seem like Rick Tocchet now, a week later, does care about how many games Dan Vladar is playing. And so Sam Ersson got in there, and I think that's why, because they saw the games piling up.
Yeah, that's the other part of the strategy that we have to talk about here, right? Is
Yes.
putting Samerson in this game. You can, in retrospect, talk about how he played in the game, which I think was actually pretty solid.
It was
But
decent.
yeah, but that being said, you would think that you would put your number one goaltender in against the top team in the NHL. Now, the converse side to that argument is the Colorado Avalanche have a lot more experience against Dan Vladar because of him playing in the
Nah, I
West
don't think that
for the
played
last
into
couple of
it.
years. But yeah, I don't know that it did either. I think that's the only explanation you can come up with in terms of a counter argument to putting Vladar
Yeah.
in there, other than the rest issue,
It's the
like you
rest,
said.
and that's why they did it. But again, see, this is where we kind of figured, like 2 weeks ago, and Rick Tocchet sort of referenced it a little bit. They haven't really had a true schedule set up for
Right.
these guys. So now, when it looked like the games were piling up on Vladar, they sat him. Yeah, if you were more in control of the schedule, you would have rather have sat him against another team. But that's
Right.
just the way it worked out.
And that's why, when we talked about it, when we went over this whole homestand and the difficulty of it, we said you would put Urson in against the Sharks
Right.
in one of the 2 Carolina games coming up next
Correct.
weekend, right? But they didn't do that. And did that cost them the game? Ultimately, no. I think
No, but I mean, it could have been closer. It could have been.
I don't know. I think it was pretty close. That's the thing, is that
Well,
it
here's the
it
thing.
ended up being close in the end.
Right. But here's the thing. I never thought the Flyers were winning that game, even when it got to 3-2. They didn't show me anything that, and especially after, Zegras missed the penalty shot, it didn't show me anything that they were going to win that game. And so, like, if Vladar
I
was
think
in
they
there,
did.
I never felt that way. I think if Vladar was in there, I might have had a little bit of confidence, like, hey, this could happen. I didn't see it happening.
I would disagree with you there. I think that maybe your ultimate feeling about them not winning the game is valid, because I think that Colorado is that good that no matter what the Flyers could have done, Colorado is going to end up winning in the end. And Blackwood was having an incredible game, right?
Yeah,
So I
considering he
think,
was back to back, that was a solid
yeah,
game.
right. So I think ultimately it's okay to have that feeling, but I do also think that the Flyers were putting forth the effort pretty much only in the third period there, in terms of showing that they want to win. And especially so, I would say, after the missed penalty shot. That was brutal. We're going to talk about Trevor Zegras' game in the next segment. But I do think, especially after that, and if you look at high danger chances in this game. In the first period, it was 5-1 Avalanche. In the third period, it was 8-1 Flyers. They were getting to the right areas of the ice. They were doing everything they could to push the puck forward. I think guys on the blue line were stepping up and skating forward more than they had been earlier in the game, especially Emil Andre, I would say, and Travis Sanheim to a lesser extent there. And they, on the broadcast, they talked about the Dvorak line with Zegras and Konechny. They were doing literally everything. Konechny was doing literally everything he could to win this game. And I think the effort was there. The systematic changes were there. The way they were moving the puck was there. It was just too late, ultimately, I think.
Yeah, I think that's, that is a lot of it. I again, it's one of these things where the important things were, to me, pile on early. They didn't do it. The penalty shot's the penalty shot, and you still went 0 for 1 on the power play.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of that is fair. And that's why I say it's reasonable to think the Flyers were never going to win the game, but I also think they tried. So
I didn't think they didn't try, but I just didn't think it was happening. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to get into some more individual performances and dig more into this game and how we move ahead from it coming up next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it is going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part of events like this. And that's why the Gametime app is clutch. It finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats are open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it so simple. You scroll through matchups, compare seat views, then you can pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. There's no confusion or no hunting for that fine print. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Gametime. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live the Flyers every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. You can join our Everydayers Club today and get Locked On Flyers with no interruptions from ads, members only Discord access, and more for just $5 a month or $50 a year. So go to lockedonflyers.supercast.com. You can click the link in the show notes as well to learn more. So that is our exciting podcast news that you're going to be able to dig in more with us over the next few months into the rest of the season. Excited to get that going. On tomorrow's show, we are going to preview Flyers versus Sharks and get into our Phantoms Tuesday report. Plus, we're going to answer those mailbag questions on Wednesday this week. So make sure you get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on any of our socials, comment on YouTube, or you'll be able to ask us in the Discord as well. And we're going to give some priority to the Discord user questions there. So that is another good incentive to sign up for our Everydayers Club. Getting back into this Flyers versus Avalanche game, I think, we talked a little bit before the break about that top line. So I do want to talk about Trevor Zegras and Travis Konechny specifically, because again, Travis Konechny wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to his play and his intensity out there on the ice. And I think that especially after he missed that one opportunity after he had scored the goal, there was like one or two other good shots.
Which we have to say, Emil Andre made a tremendous pass on that.
Oh, Absolutely tremendous. Yeah, love that for him. Konechny and Zegras, especially after missing the penalty shot, he was just completely devastated by
He
that and
was.
was going to do everything he could to win this game back. And I think that's a good thing that they got fired up about it. But also, I feel like maybe there was something missing from the rest of the lineup at that point too.
That could be true. Could have taken a little bit of starch out for a little while. I would say this though. I always talk about video scouting. Mackenzie Blackwood video scouted Trevor Zegras. He
Yep.
knew what was coming. He didn't flinch. Other goalies have been flinching a lot this year. He didn't. So I give him credit. I mean, that's part of due diligence.
Yeah, absolutely. Like on that penalty shot, it is kind of wild how he keeps missing the penalty shots, but makes the
I know.
shootout goals
No
every
accounting
time.
for it. No
Like
accounting
just
for it.
none. I think that Trevor Zegras and Travis Konechny, I think, in this game, they weren't able to carry the team forward to a win. But again, against the top team in the league, I just love what we're seeing from them because even when they aren't at their best in terms of executing, the effort is always there. And I
Yeah,
like
sure.
them on this line together. I really do. I think they feed off each other in terms of that energy.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, they're trying hard. It's just, that's the way that this game works sometimes. But, again, I do think there was some strategy problems, and I do think that ultimately did not help them. But,
Right.
they tried to catch up.
They did. They absolutely did. Now, I want to talk about Gurbenkin again
Mhm.
because, we had talked about moving him up on the lineup would give him some more opportunities, some more chances. What do you think about his game? This is like his second chance
Yeah.
moved up the lineup here.
He got a few more minutes, which was good. I didn't notice a lot out of him, though, to be honest.
Yeah, there was like one or two plays where he was
That's
able
what it
to
always
float
is.
net
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a couple, but then that's sort of it. Like, I never see him fully carry that through.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting note, though, related to that. So you look at the overall time on ice in the game. Nikita Gurbenkin, 14:53. Matvey Michkov, 14:23. What does that say?
I just scratch my head. I mean, I don't know. I'm speechless about it. I have no good answer.
Yeah, I think there's been reason to try and hold him back a little bit, Michkov. Now, is it because he was on the Couturier line? Now, I know Couturier scored that goal, but they've been kind of dialing his minutes back a little bit just to not overdo it with him. But even like Couturier had 17:40 out there and Michkov 14:23.
Now, this is like, do you think this guy's the future or not? Like, we're year 2 into this. We're, a third of the way into the season of year 2. Like, if you think he's the future, then you have to start treating him like he's the future.
Yeah, and it was good that they gave him the power play time, right?
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
just the 5-on-5 time, and I
And
I
we
go
talked
both
about it
ways.
all year. Yeah.
Yeah, I go both ways on this because in terms of playing him against a team like the Avalanche, it's like maybe they're thinking, "Oh, he's just gonna get burned against
But you have to
this
learn that
offense."
way.
Exactly. So it's I don't necessarily agree with holding him back against this team. I think he does thrive against the top
Yeah.
teams.
When Nishushkin was his age, he had to learn, like you don't
Yeah.
just, and so like I think, you have to 5-on-5 is when you learn. You don't learn on the power play.
Correct. Now, in terms of the blue line here,
Mhm.
obviously they had to make some adjustments. So Sealer was put on the pairing with Sanheim. We had Andre and Drysdale staying together, which I think was important. And then
Yeah.
Zamula checked in with Juleson. I'm not sure there was like really any other way to do it if they weren't going to throw somebody else in
No,
there,
but
right?
Juleson had a bad game. He was getting beat quite a bit. He had the
Yeah.
penalty
Except
that
for the
led to
one shot that led to the
right.
Coots goal, but
Right, but he got, but he also gave them the power play, which led to a goal. So, yeah, I just didn't think he had a particularly good game. It wasn't Zamula's fault. It just wasn't good. That's all. I mean,
yeah,
actually, the Drysdale Andre pairing did better.
they did. They did overall, and I think they're building a chemistry that is enabling Emil Andre to play the way he is, and I think it
Yeah.
is really interesting because Drysdale is supposed to be the offensive defenseman on that
That's the
pairing, but he's
thing that
turning into the defensive defenseman in this pairing
which
in
is a
some ways.
problem, by the way. But we've talked about this all year. Like,
Yeah.
Andre is their best puck moving, passing defenseman. He is. He shouldn't be. And it's not anything against him. It should be Drysdale. Now they're getting Drysdale
Right.
to play better defense, but at the end of the day, Jamie Drysdale is going to look for a lot of money, and it probably as much as if he was scoring or not. And if he doesn't score, you do have to kind of question if it's worth it to pay him a lot of money. That's down the line, but that's stuff I think about.
Right. I think, the true answer to all this will be when is Cam York coming back? And
Mm-hmm.
so, if this has to be a longer term solution than maybe one more game, then you have to start thinking about making a move here
Right.
or playing a guy like Murchison and seeing what happens, right?
Right. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, maybe you play Murchison with Jules, and maybe that's a better pairing. Like, try it. I'd try it for a game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's
Although I
also,
wouldn't do it against San Jose. I'm just saying, don't do it against San Jose.
yeah, I
They
mean,
are
there's
not
other
the San
call-up
Jose.
options as well.
No, I know, but they're not the San Jose of last year. I just want to say
They're
that.
not. That is also true. They are a fast team and a very young, dynamic offense.
They
So
shouldn't even be playing Nick Delorier against San Jose, but that's a whole other.
no, they should not. They should not. Yeah, I mean, Delorier's in the game. What are you going to do? Forrester's out. This is what they're choosing to
I mean,
do
they can
here.
do other things. There are other players they could call up and play instead. They don't have to. They're not forced to. I'm happy they're not going 11-7, but I don't know. Did Nick Delorier add to that game? No.
No, I mean, Grunstrom could have played and it would have been just the same.
That would have been fine
I would
too.
say. Yeah. So like we said last week, Grunstrom or
At least it makes you a little faster.
Richard.
Yeah, at least it makes you a little faster. Then you don't have to give Couturier 17 minutes either.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Because again, that's going to add up. I mean, we're going back to like a couple of years ago when Couturier had tons of minutes dumped on him, and it added up after a while. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, I think so. It is something we will have to keep an eye on, and we'll see if Cam York is going to come back. We'll see if they decide to make any adjustments offensively. We're going to get into all that tomorrow. In the meantime, it is Monday, so we will have our Nemesis of the week and talk a little bit more about Olympic ice coming up next.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting's the best when the game starts to shift. The receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. I still would go with the Denver Broncos to win the Super Bowl because you can get some good odds. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
So, Russ, one of our favorite topics of conversation over the last year and a half.
Over a
maybe,
year. Yeah, it might be a year and a half.
Has been the worry we had about the Olympic ice. And it's really coming to a head now because the Olympics are like literally around the corner. And there was a report that the ice is actually smaller than NHL regulations. So instead of 200 feet.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's 197 feet instead of 200 feet here. I saw a report from Elliot Friedman where they did mention that the NHL games that they've been having over in Europe, like in Sweden, had that smaller size. And what they did was shrink the neutral zone so that the zones are the same size, offensive and defensive. So distances and judgment is the same on that front, and that the players haven't minded so much.
You know
I don't
what the difference
love
is?
it, but
no. But I'll tell you the difference. Those games don't get as hyped up as an Olympic game does, and that extra little loss in time and space could cost a player. It could add to injuries. And now if I'm Canada, I might bring Tom Wilson because now it might play into having a guy like Wilson. Like, this changes things, and it doesn't change it for the better. And I think that's, Ron Hainsey from the NHLPA says, listen, he doesn't want any of his players to be put at risk meaning about the ice. They're playing 5 games in 2 days at one point.
Yep.
Middle of January, they're testing it. I don't feel great about this. I think it's a coin flip right now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great about it either. Once again, I will repeat what I've said in the past. I think it is completely unfair and ridiculous that the women's tournament has to bear the brunt of truly testing
Oh yeah, they're the ones.
this ice, right?
Yep. They're the ones doing it. It shouldn't be any of them. It should be like junior hockey teams or whatever from like Switzerland. It shouldn't be any Olympic athletes, honestly.
Yeah, and there is a day in the women's tournament with 3 games in one day and 2 games the next day. So it's a similar situation there in the women's tournament, and to be used as kind of guinea pigs is I think unfair.
Here's the
to the
bigger
women's
question,
tournament.
though. How do you get a Zamboni to Italy? Are they on boat? I'm
I'm
assuming
pretty
by boat.
sure they have rinks in Europe, and then they clear ice surfaces in Europe. I'm not
No, I mean, they
even
have rinks,
worried
but
about
like
that.
even Switzerland, you got to get up and down the mountains. So I'm kind of wondering, is it worth it to bring a Zamboni that way? I think they end up doing it via
I'm
over in
pretty
the
sure they
water.
have Zambonis, and there's not an issue with that.
Okay.
Not an issue
Oh, I'm
at
not saying
all.
they're not going to have one. I'm just curious how they get it there. That's all.
You're kidding me, right?
Like they would get a ice surfacing machine to any rink in the entire continent of Europe, which they have plenty of
All right.
them. That is not an issue at all. The size and the quality, that's going to be the issue there. Turning to our nemesis of the week here. Last week I talked about Owen Tippett, and when the highs are high with him, they're very good. When the lows creep into his game, not so good. This game against the Colorado Avalanche, I would say he had a couple of good rushes, but that didn't really amount to anything, though.
Right.
He was good at getting the puck up the ice, I suppose, but he didn't really have a significant impact in this game. And, I think that kind of fed into what my worry is with him and why I picked him for my nemesis.
And he got a vote of confidence from Danny Briere the other day, like, hey, we're not even thinking about trading him. We believe in his upside. And it's like, okay.
Okay, Danny. I mean,
maybe they do, or maybe he's just saying that.
Or maybe he's saying that to try and sell him higher. That is possible as well. You talked about QR codes that you didn't like them. I have mixed feelings. It depends on the situation, and they are very useful in some instances, but you were talking more specifically about having to log into stuff on your TV, and I get that. That is kind of a pain sometimes there. This week, my nemesis is getting through the rest of this week and these games. And especially, I feel kind of like, that Sesame Street book that with Grover, the monster at the end of this book.
Yeah.
This back-to-back against Carolina at the end of the week is the monster at the end of this book for me. I think playing that team that is such a grind, that Rod Brindamore's system is such a physical grind. And with the Flyers missing Tyson Forster, and we don't even know if Cam York is going to be back by then, who's also like excellent defensively right now and can bear the brunt physically, I think, in a way that some of the other Flyers defensemen cannot at this point. That back-to-back is what is worrying me the most heading into this week. Yeah, I know we still got 2 other games to get through to get there.
Yeah.
But I just see it out of the corner of my eye. And so that is why is my nemesis of the week.
So my nemesis is something that I think is going to be amazingly bad, and it's happening in 2026. And that is, so one of my favorite bands all time, Foreigner, and Lynyrd Skynyrd are touring together, and there are no original members in either band. None. Zero. Now, there have been some that have been there 20 years because they filled in like a while ago and they've hung around. But should you be able to call them those names if there's no original members? Like, I even saw Starship advertised, so I went and looked it up. There's no original members. Even Mickey Thomas is gone. Like, I don't know. I feel like you kind of get duped if you're paying for a band like that, seeing the name, and if you don't really pay attention, they might play okay, but it's more like a tribute band, isn't it, at that point?
I mean, yeah, that is absolutely what it is. I think, it's really tough to justify paying a lot of money when there are no original players in there, right?
Yeah,
It's just it's not the same. I think there's, when you replace the lead singer of a band, even that sometimes is a problem.
sure, but I could live
Like
with that.
yeah, I think I can, with Chicago when that
Hmm.
happened.
Yeah, Cetera was
Um,
great.
Cetera was great. Other people, I don't know.
Right.
But I think, Queen, on the other hand, I think has done an excellent
Oh,
job
absolutely. Yeah, I
with
mean,
it. And Adam
no doubt.
Lambert has been phenomenal
Yeah.
as a lead
Nobody
singer.
would complain
And
about him.
yeah, and I think that because he gets it about Freddie Mercury, the whole band, it's been very clear that this is Freddie Mercury's band,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But that Adam Lambert has something special in his voice
Yeah.
that he's able to capture the dynamic
The
performance
feeling.
style, the
Yeah.
feeling of it, and his vocals are unmatched as
Right.
far as that style. So I think it's been a good thing, but I get it in terms of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
what you're talking about, though, at least Brian May's still there, and they got some of the originals there.
all right. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. As a reminder for everydayers, Tuesday on the show, we will preview Flyers versus Sharks, and we will do our weekly Phantoms check-in. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in those mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. Email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on our YouTube channel. Did Locked On Flyers make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayers Club.
There you
Just
go.
tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform. We'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayers Club and get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. The link to join is in the show notes. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.